Morgan Richard Tsvangirai, born 10th March 1952, died 14th February 2018, was a Zimbabwean politician who was Prime Minister of Zimbabwe from 2009 to 2013. He was president of Movement for Democratic Change and later the Movement for Democratic Change Tsvangirai as a key figure in the opposition to former President Robert Mugabe. Tsvangirai was the MDC candidate in the controversial 2002 presidential elections, losing to Mugabe. He later contested for the first round of the 2008 presidential election as the MDC-T candidate, taking 47.8% of the voting according to official results, placing him ahead of Mugabe, who received 43.2%. Tsvangirai claimed to have won a majority and said that the results could have been altered in the month between the election and the reporting of the official results. Tsvangirai initially planned to run in the second round against Mugabe but withdrew shortly before it was held, arguing that the election would not be free and fair due to widespread violence and intimidation for the government supporters that led to the deaths of 200 people. He sustained non-life-threatening injuries in a car crash on 6th March 2009 when heading towards his rural home in Ruhela. His first wife, Susan Tsvangirai, was killed in the head-on collision. After the 2017 Zimbabwean coup d'etat occurred, Tsvangirai asked Mugabe to step down. He hoped that an all-inclusion stakeholders meeting to chart the country's future and internationally supervise the process for forthcoming elections would create a process that would take all the country towards a legitimate regime. On 14th February 2018, Tsvangirai died at the age of 65 after reportedly suffering from colorectal cancer. Tsvangirai was born in Ruhela area in then Southern Rhodesia to Kalanga Sholan parentage through his father Tsvangirai and mother Lydia Tsvangirai. He was the elder of the 9 children and the son of common farmer, mine worker, carpenter, and bricklayer. He completed his primary school at St. Mark's Goneso Primary School, Wediza, and was transferred by his father to Chikara Primary School, Gutu, then to Silveria. He completed his secondary education at Kogemera High School. After leaving school with 8 ordinary levels, in April 1972, he landed his first job as a trainee weaver for elastics and tapes texture factory in Mutare. In 1974, an old schoolmate from Silveria encouraged Morgan to apply for advertised job as apprentice for Anglo-Americans Bindura's nickel mine in Mashonaland Central. He spent 10 years at the mine, rising from plant operator to plant supervisor. His rural home was Buhera, which is 220 kilometers southeast of Harare. Tsvangirai married his first wife Susan in 1978. The couple had 6 children during their 31-year marriage, which ended with her death in 2009 car crash. In 2011, Lokadia Kasimatsenga, born 1970, claimed that Tsvangirai married her in customary ceremony in 2010. She had been seeking maintenance payment of £10,000 a month to keep up the lifestyle to which she said in court papers she had become accustomed. A year later, his love life made headlines again after a 23-year-old woman bore him a child and he refused to support the baby until she threatened to take him to court. He married his second wife, Elizabeth Macheka, born 1976, mother of three, on 15 September 2012. Upon Zimbabwean independence in 1980, Tsvangirai, who was then aged 28, joined the ascendant ZANU-PF party, led by Robert Mugabe, who would later become his biggest political rival. Tsvangirai is reported to have been an ardent Mugabe supporter and to have risen swiftly in hierarchy, eventually becoming one of the party's senior officials. He is also known for his role in Zimbabwe trade union movement, where he held the position of branch chairman of Associate Mine Workers Union and was later elected into the executive of the National Mine Workers Union. In 1989, he became the Secretary General of Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, the umbrella trade union organization of Zimbabwe. Tsvangirai led the ZCTU away from the ruling ZANU-PF as his power and that of the movement grew, his relation with the government deteriorated. 3 years after coming to power, Mugabe ordered the 5th Brigade, a military unit specially trained by North Korea, to commit a massacre in Matabele land in cooperation with the Minister of Defense Enos Nkala, led by Air Marshal Perence Shiri, because of suspicions of a alleged counter-revolution being planned by Joshua Nkomo. Tsvangirai would later use Gukurahundi against ZANU and drum up support in Matabele land. Tsvangirai was periodically toured the mass graves of the victims in Tsorosho, Nkezi, Lupane, Nkei, and other places in rural Matabeleland. Addressing villagers in Mafisa in 2001, he said, "This was a barbaric operation by ZANU-PF. It should never have happened. It was a sad episode in our history, and the MDC will obviously want to see justice being done if it comes to power. Such human rights abuse should be revisited, and those responsible will have to account for their actions." The National Constitutional Assembly (NCA), established in 1997, was chaired by a moderator and its day-to-day executive was run by a task force. Tsvangirai chaired the task force as founding convener. Tawanda Mutasa, succeeded by Bishop Nemapare, served as moderator. Serving with Tsvangirai in the task force were activists that included Lavamoa Maduku, Washman Tsube, Eva Joyce Wynne, Brian Kagoro, Tendai Biti, and Priscilla Misihawabi. The NCA gathered individual Zimbabwean citizens and civic organizations, including labor movements, student and youth groups, women's groups, churches, business groups, and human rights organizations. These individuals and groups formed the NCA to campaign for constitutional reform after realizing that the political, social, and economic problems affecting Zimbabwe were mainly a result of defective Lancaster House Constitution and would only be resolved through a new and democratic constitution. Tsvangirai stepped down after being elected president of the MDC. The Solidarity Silver Rose Award. In 2001, Tsvangirai was awarded the Solidarity Silver Award. The award was for outstanding achievement by an individual or organization in activity of civil society and in bringing about a fairer and more just society. Movement for Democratic Change. In 1999, Tsvangirai co-founded and organized Movement for Democratic Change with Gibson Sibanda, Welshman Chube, Fletcher, Durini Chube, and Isaac Nantongo, an opposition party opposed the President Robert Mugabe and the ZANU-PF ruling party. He held to defeat the February 2000 constitutional referendum successfully, campaigning against it along with the National Constitutional Assembly. Tsvangirai lost the March 2002 presidential election to Mugabe. The elections provoked widespread allegations that Mugabe had rigged the election through the use of violence, media bias, and manipulation of votes roll, leading to abnormally high pro-Mugabe turnout in some areas. Tsvangirai was arrested after the 2000 elections and charged with treason. This charge was later dismissed. In 2004, Tsvangirai was acquitted of 2004 alleged plot to assassinate Mugabe in a run-up to the 2002 presidential elections. George Bizos, a South African human rights lawyer who was a part of the team that defended Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu in the famous South African Livonia trial in 1964, headed the Morgan Tsvangirai defense team. October 2000 arrest. Tsvangirai was arrested after the government alleged that he had threatened President Robert Mugabe. The Movement for Democratic Change leader had told 40,000 supporters at a rally in Harare that if Mr. Mugabe did not want to step down before the next elections, scheduled for 2002, we will remove you violently. However, Tsvangirai said that he was giving a warning to President Mugabe to consider history. There is a long line of dictators who have refused to go peacefully, and the people have removed them violently, he said. The court dismissed the charges. June 2003 arrest. In May 2003, Tsvangirai was arrested on Friday afternoon shortly after giving a press conference. The government alleged he had incited violence in the press conferences, he had said. From Monday the 2nd June upon today, 6th June, Mugabe was not in charge of this country. He was busy marshalling his forces of repression against the sovereign will of the peoples of Zimbabwe. However, even in the context of the brutalities inflicted upon them, the people's spirit of resistance was not broken. The sound of gunfire will never silence them. Their demand for change and freedom. March 2007 arrest and beating. On 11th March 2007, a day after his 55th birthday, Tsvangirai was arrested on his way to a prayer rally in Harare township of Highfield. His wife was allowed to see him in prison, after which she reported that he had been heavily tortured by police, resulting into deep gashes on his head and a badly swollen eye. The event garnered an international outcry. He was allegedly tortured by a special force of Zimbabwe unit based at Army's Cannibon Barracks on 12 March 2007 after being arrested and held at Machipisa police station in Highfield, suburb of Harare. A Zimbabwean freelance cameraman, Edward Chikombo, smuggled a television picture of Morgan Tsvangirai injured following the beat. Chikombo was later abducted from his home in Greenville Township outside Harare. His body was discovered the next weekend near the village of Darwendare, 5 miles west of Harare. There have been a pattern of abductions and punishment beating where scores of opposition activists and their relatives have been attacked by government-sanctioned gangs using unmarked cars and police-issued government weapons. According to lawyer Tendai Biti, the Secretary General of MDC and an MP of Harare East, who was arrested along with Tsvangirai. Tsvangirai suffered a cracked skull and must have passed out at least 3 times. Tsvangirai was subsequently admitted to the intensive care unit at local hospital. Reports from BBC News indicated that Tsvangirai suffered from a fractured skull and received blood transfusion for internal bleeding. Although the incident was a clear case of political violence, Tsvangirai has since had very little political support from surrounding African countries. Tsvangirai was released, but on 28 March 2007, Zimbabwe police stormed the Movement for Democratic Change 44 Harvest House national headquarters and once again arrested him hours before he was to speak with the media about recent political violence in the country. The United States considered further sanctions against the leadership of Zimbabwe following the event. Tsvangirai's bodyguard killed on 25 October 2007. It was reported that Namo Kusekiwa, who was Morgan's bodyguard since the formation of MDC in 1999, has died from complications resulting from injuries sustained in March 2007. During a crackdown by the government, the MDC spokesman Nelson Chamisa said Mukesiwa have been vomiting blood since 11 March 2007, when he is alleged to have been severely beaten along with other opposition officials and members, including Tsvangirai himself, by the police. That day, police held a prayer meeting in the ensuing confrontation. One MDC activist, Gift Tandare, was shot dead. The shooting of Tandare was documented by prominent Zimbabwean journalist Tapiwa Zifira, who was then a student with the local paper, the Zimbabwe Standard. Assassination plot delay homecoming. Tsvangirai was due to arrive in Harare, Zimbabwe on Saturday, 17 May 2008, but a party spokesman said he was staying in Europe after a credible assassination plot was discovered. On Friday, 16 May 2008, he held a press conference at Europa Hotel in Belfast, Northern Ireland. June 2008 arrest. Morgan Tsvangirai was detained by police while campaigning on Wednesday, 4th June 2008 after being stopped at police roadblock. Tsvangirai and a group of 14 party officials were held at police station in Lupane. This was claimed by Tsvangirai and widely believed by human rights groups to be a tactic to disrupt his campaign. By 27 June elections, Tsvangirai was accused by police of threatening public security by addressing a gathering without prior authorization. His detention was vigorously protested by United States and various European governments. He was released without charge after 8 hours. Tsvangirai commented that this was nothing but the usual harassment, which is totally unnecessary. The police also confiscated one of the security vehicles in the entourage. During this time, Mugabe was in Rome at a conference on food security. However, Chief Police Spokesman of Zimbabwe, Wayne Vujena, said Tsvangirai's convoy was stopped because one of the vehicles did not have proper registration. The driver of the vehicle was asked to accompany the police to the station, but others in the party insisted on the following driver to the station. This was followed by the brief detention of diplomats from United States and the United Kingdom. On 6 June 2008, he was again stopped at a police checkpoint and blocked from attending a pre-election rally at How Mine near the southern city of Bulawayo. According to the chairman of Movement for Democratic Change, Love Moyo, the police said they should have informed them in advance of Tsvangirai visits to the area. Allegations of wrongdoing. In 2003, Ali Ben Menash accused Tsvangirai of plotting to overthrow the Zimbabwe government in a coup After a treason trial, Tsvangirai was acquitted of the charges. 2011 investigation over WikiLeaks disclosure. The Attorney General set up a team of lawyers to investigate whether Tsvangirai may be charged with conspiracy or treason after cables obtained by WikiLeaks were published. Tsvangirai have been accused of following activists to attack opponents within his own party. In 2005, such allegations triggered the split in his party between his faction and the faction now led by Arthur Mutambara. In February 2014, a senior party member claimed he was beaten and injured after calling for Tsvangirai to step down as a party leader. An unnamed witness backed Elton Magoma's allegation and added, "It's shocking that this actually took place right in Tsvangirai's face and with him smiling." Tsvangirai had said his party would investigate the allegation. In August 2007, Tsvangirai met Australia Prime Minister John Howard in Melbourne and after talks told the media that countries like Australia could play a very important role in struggle against President Mugabe's regime. In September 2007, it was widely reported that Tsvangirai met Thabo Mbeki, the former president of South Africa, for crucial talks on how to speed up talks between the ruling ZANU-PF and the Movement for Democratic Change party. In May 2008, Tsvangirai met Raila Odinga, the then Prime Minister of Kenya, who urged him to contest an election runoff against Mugabe. 2008 elections, a presidential election and parliamentary elections was held on 29 March 2008. The three major candidates were Mugabe, Tsvangirai, and Simba Makoni, an independent. The MDC photographed data at each poll station to correlate the four election results. The official results on the presidential elections first round were finally released on 2nd May 2008 and hotly contested by the MDC representatives. According to the result released by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, Tsvangirai won the first round, amassing 47.9% of the votes against 43.2% claimed by Mugabe. They meant that no candidate had the necessary 50% plus one vote to be declared the winner after the first round, and a runoff would be needed. MDC spokesman Nelson Chamisa called the announced result scandalous daylight robbery. The MDC continued to assert that it won an outright victory in the first round with 50.3% of the votes. Tsvangirai, who was outside of Zimbabwe primarily in South Africa for a significant period following the first round of election, announced on 10 May that he would participate in the presidential runoff with Mugabe. Tsvangirai said that this second round should take place within the 3-week period following the announcement of results. That's specified by the Electoral Act. He made his participation conditional on affected access of all international observers, the reconstitution of Electoral Commission, and free access for the media, including international press. On 13 May 2008, Tsvangirai stated that he could be willing to compete in runoff. At least Southern African Development Community election observers would be present, softening his previous demand for free access to all international observers. It was subsequently announced that the second round would be held on 27th June. The MDC denounced this delay. Although Tsvangirai had been expected to return to Zimbabwe on 17th May, the MDC announced his return was delayed due to a claim plot to assassinate him. The party claimed that military intelligence was in charge of the alleged plot, while the government dismissed the MDC claim, saying that Tsvangirai was playing to the international media gallery. Some observer suggested at this time that Tsvangarai's failure to return called into his question his leadership quality and made it appear that he was afraid of Mugabe and unwilling to risk coming to harm despite the risk taken by his supporters remaining in Zimbabwe. Tsvangirai returned to Zimbabwe from South Africa on 24th May. He gave what he described as a State of National address to the newly elected MDC MPs on 30th May. On this occasion, he said that Zimbabwe was in a state of despair and was an mitigated embarrassment to the African continent due to its economic situation, and he also said that those engaged in political violence would receive no money from his government. He also described the MDC as the new ruling party and said that the MDC legislative program would be based on returning of fundamental freedoms to the peoples of Zimbabwe. A new people-driven constitution would follow within 18 months, according to Tsvangirai, and a Truth and Justice Commission would be established. The army would defend our borders, not attacking our people, while the prisons would hold only criminal, not innocent people. He preached that the people would introduce a new strategy combining demand and supply side measures to bring inflation under control. Tsvangirai also promised the revival of agriculture, saying that the issue would be completely depoliticized and that there would be measures to compensate for reintegrated farmers to roast their land as a part of land reform. The government has said that a victory for Tsvangirai would be disastrous and destabilizing. Tsvangirai was detained near Lupane on 4th June along with his security team and other top MDC officials such as MDC Vice President Thokozani Kupe and MDC Chairman Love Moyo. A lawyer for MDC said that Tsvangirai was alleged to have addressed a rally near Lupane without permission. His vehicle was stopped by police at Red Block and his motorcade was searched. After 2 hours, he was taken to police station. The MDC described this as part of a determined and well-orchestrated effort to delay our campaign program, while the US government called the incident deeply disturbing and the German government demanded his release. Tsvangirai was released after that day, after 9 hours. Vujizena, the police spokesman, rejected any suggestion that the police were trying to intervene in Tsvangirai's campaign. He explained the detention by saying that the police have wanted to determine whether a vehicle in Tsvangirai's motorcade has valid registration. According to Vujizena, the police have wanted to take only the driver of his vehicle to the police station to review the relevant documents, but the Tsvangirai and the rest of his entourage insist on coming as well. On 22nd June 2008, Tsvangirai announced at a press conference that he was withdrawing from the runoff, describing it as a violent sham and saying that his support risked being killed if they vote for him. He vowed that MDC would ultimately prevail and that victory could only be delayed. Shortly after making his announcement, Tsvangirai sought refuge at Dutch embassy in Harare, citing concern for his safety. He did not seek political asylum. Political negotiations. On 22nd July 2008, Tsvangirai and Mutambara met Mugabe face-to-face and shook hands with him for the first time in over a decade for negotiations in Harare, orchestrated by Mbeki, aiming for a settlement of electoral dispute that would share power between MDC and ZANU-PF at the executive level. This was followed by the beginning of clandestine negotiations between appointed emissaries from both parties in Pretoria. The media images of hands being shaken between the political rivera also set a stark contrast to ongoing partisan violence taking place in the both rural and urban areas in Zimbabwe. At the end of the first day of negotiation, South African president and mediator to Zimbabwe, Thabo Mbeki announced in Harare that Mugabe of ZANU-PF, Arthur Mutambara of MDC, and Tsvangirai finally signed the power sharing agreement, a memorandum of understanding. Beck said. An agreement have been reached on all time on the agenda. Mugabe, Tsvangirai, Mutambara endorsed the document tonight and signed it. The formal signing will be done on Monday at 10 a.m. The document will be released then. The ceremony will be attended by SADC and other African regional and continental leaders. The leaders will spend the next few days consulting the inclusion government to be announced on Monday. The leaders will work very hard to mobilize support for the people to recover. We would we hope the world will assist so that this political agreement succeeds. In signed historic power deal, Mugabe won on 11 September 2008 agreed to surrender day-to-day control of the government and the deal is also expected to result in de facto amnesty for the military and ZANU-PF party leaders. Opposition so said Tsvangirai will become prime minister at the head of a council of ministers, the principal organ of the government drawn from his movement for democratic change and the president's ZANU-PF party. And Mugabe will remain president and continue to chair the cabinet that will be a fragile consultative body, and the real power will lie with Tsvangirai. South African's Business Day reported, however, that Mugabe was refusing to sign a deal which would sustain his presidential power. The New York Times said Nelson Chamisa, a spokesman for the opposition movement for democratic change, announced this is an inclusive government. The executive power would be shared by the president, prime minister, and the cabinet. Mugabe, Tsvangirai, and Mutambara have still not decided how to divide the minister by Fraser, the American Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, said, "We don't know what is on the table and it's hard to really for an agreement when no one knows the details or even the broad outlines." On 15 September 2008, the leader of 14-member Southern African Development Community witnessed the signing of power-sharing agreement blocked by South African leader Thabo Mbeki with symbolic shake hand and warm smiling at Rainbow Towers Hotel in Harare. Mugabe and Tsvangirai signed the deal to end the violent political crisis. As provided, Mugabe remained president, Tsvangirai became prime minister. The MDC took control of police, Mugabe's ZANU-PF remained command of army, and Mutambara became deputy prime minister. In January 2009, Tsvangirai announced that he would do as a leader across Africa had desisted and joined the coalition government as prime minister with Mugabe. On 11 February 2009, Tsvangirai was sworn in as the prime minister of Zimbabwe. Following the swearing-in of united government, Tsvangirai's announced nominee for Deputy Agriculture Minister Rob Bennett was arrested and charged with treason, which was later reduced to charge of possession weapon for the destabilization of the government. Tsvangirai's government exhibited little ability to resuscitate the charges. Furthermore, farmland invasion by war veterans continued, with Mugabe maintaining the land reform policy despite the protests of the opposition. Tsvangirai reportedly visited Nigeria pastor TB Joshua in September 2010 to seek divine intervention for the upcoming Zimbabwe elections. Speaking to This Is Africa in early 2012, Tsvangirai described how he believed the original agreement was not being honored, stating Mugabe has appointed governors whom When in the power sharing agreement, all appointments should be in consultation with him. He has appointed ambassadorial deployments without consulting me. He extended the appointment of some of the key security positions like Commissioner of Police beyond their terms of office without consulting me. The return of unilateral decision is obvious. The United government came to an end within the 2013 Zimbabwe general election, in which Mugabe was elected as president. The office of Prime Minister was abolished by the 2013 constitution. His death. In June 2016, Tsvangirai has announced that he had been diagnosed with cancer and was undergoing treatment. Over the following years, the condition of his life declined, and on 6 February 2018, it was announced that he was critically ill and in a hospital in South Africa. An MDC spokesman stated, "We should brace for the worst," referring to the seriousness of his condition. He died 8 days later on 14 February. His death was announced by Elias Moduzuri, a senior official within the party, who stated, "He died this evening. The family communicated this to me." Tsvangirai's death was considered a serious blow to the MDC in the run-up for election planned for mid-2018, the first since the end of Mugabe's rule. The cause of death was presumed to be colorectal cancer. In the aftermath of Tsvangirai's death, his mother threatened to commit suicide if Nelson Chamisa, his successor, attended the funeral. The event was commonly seen as testament to the tense atmosphere shrouding the party in the days leading up to Tsvangirai's death, with the leaders closest to him jokingly to succeed him. Honors. During a visit to South Korea in May 2010, Tsvangirai was conferred with a honorary degree of the Doctor of Law by Pai Chan University, becoming the 13th recipient of a honorary degree in 125 years history of United Methodist Church Institute. Thank you very much for being with us. Today we have focused about Morgan Richard Tsvangirai. In summary, who was the second Prime Minister of Zimbabwe in office from 11 February 2009 to 11 September 2013? Under the President Robert Mugabe, Deputy Sokozani Kufe Arthur Mutambara, preceded by Robert Mugabe, who was the president. The office was abolished. He was the president of Movement for Democratic Change, Tsvangirai, which was MDC from 1999 to 2005. In office 30 September 1999 to 14 February 2018, preceded by Gibson C. Banda, succeeded by Nelson Chamisa. He was married to the first wife, Susan Mudurwa, from 1978 until her death 2009. Also married to Elizabeth Macheka from 2011. He had 9 kids. He was a member of ZANU-PF before 1987. That was Zimbabwe African National Unit, which was changed to Zimbabwe National African Union Patriotic Front from 1987 to 1999. Movement for Democratic Change from 1999 to 2005. Movement for Democratic Change Tsvangirai from 2005 to 2018 until his death. Thank you very much for being with us. Today we have focused about Morgan Richard Tsvangirai, who was a chief opposition of Mugabe government from 1999 until his death in 2018, caused by coronal cancer, where he died in South Africa. Thank you very much, and keep watching other videos we have made so that we can grow together. You are allowed to comment so that we can know what you want to add in next upcoming videos. See you and God bless everyone who have managed to watch with us. Bye.